So inflation data has come in for March, and the consumer price index has shown that inflation has risen to 3.3%. Why do I bring this up first today? Is because real impact is happening on the US economy. This means that the Fed is unlikely to reduce interest rates. And as you know, Trump has been trying to bludgeon the Federal Reserve to reduce interest rates, going so far as to try to criminalize the Fed chair and to remove the independence of the Fed to do his bidding. So the Fed would like to see inflation at 2%, but it seems that now inflation is increasing, as everyone predicted, because oil prices affect everything. So we are seeing that inflation, the consumer price index has risen by at least 3.3%. Sorry, it has jumped to 3.3%. And now it is the highest monthly gain since its peak post-pandemic in June of 2022. So this is really bad news for the US economy. And this unwarranted, illegal war that Trump agreed to with Netanyahu is having real life negative effect on American families. So Brent crude has obviously shot up 50% and has been trading at 110 a barrel. Right now, it's hovering around 95 because there's hope that peace talks will happen. But the average price per gallon is $4.15, which is about $2 more than it was on February 27. So there is a price shock that is coming. The labor market is also softening. So, there is quite a possibility that the US may be heading into a stagflation. And that is just a very bad thing for the US economy. It hurts everyday people, it hurts families, their ability to move forward in life. It's a huge affordability issue, but it's also absolutely crushing for Donald Trump, his administration, and of course the prospects of the Republicans to keep the House and the Senate in the midterms. But as I've been saying, that makes them 10x more dangerous as to how they will try to prevent people from voting and create some sort of a national emergency to tighten the prospects of people voting. In other words, expect them to become 10x more nasty as the reality of this inflation sets in. The market is about to open in 15 minutes, and everything seems kind of low-key, steady state, because J.D. Vance has just boarded the flight for Islamabad. He was speaking from the tarmac before boarding the flight, and he was doing some happy talk. So it seems that the Americans are very keen to keep the process going and to not vitiate the environment. So, as I said yesterday, one of the most unpopular men is headed to negotiate his way out of the most unpopular war that his boss has started on the say-so of a war criminal, Netanyahu. So there is that. So let us see how this pans out. The Dawn newspaper in Pakistan has done an excellent analysis. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of the author, but they've done a really extensive analysis of what could happen around the table in Islamabad, the unlikely table setting. And, one of the questions that the author asks, and I think it's extremely valid, is On whose behalf is Vance going to be negotiating? Is he going to be negotiating on America's behalf, or is he going to be negotiating on Israel's behalf? Because he cannot do both, because the interests of the two and the objectives of the two are now completely divergent. And now, with the inflation number coming in, that hurts everyday Americans, and they feel it and they see it on the price of petrol that they have to put into their cars and the diesel they have to put into their transportation and trucks. Well, on whose behalf is he going to negotiate? And the fact that Lebanon is still being struck by the Israelis, they hit southern Lebanon again today. How does America show that it's in control? Because it seems that Israel is out of control. And that the Americans, even though Trump has told and publicly said that he told Netanyahu to keep it low-key in Lebanon, they're not keeping it low-key in Lebanon. So it's really showing America's lack of control over what Israel does, even though America completely bankrolls Israel. And without American weapons, there would be no possibility to attack wherever Israel chooses. So today, the Israeli officials are saying that not only are they going to continue the war, they're going to attack ambulances and fire trucks. Yes, this is a stated policy of the Israelis. They are telling us loudly and clearly that they are going to attack ambulances and fire trucks because they're using that old trope of dual use. So when they kill civilians or harm civilians, and paramedics and fire trucks and rescuers try to make it to the site, they attack them. So it is a clear intent to not let people live or survive. And they're telling you they're going to do that. So J.D. Vance sitting across the table from the Iranians, if he sits across the table from them, it's really unclear how he is going to navigate what their rogue buddy is doing to undermine any negotiating position that he has. So it's a very legitimate question the author in the newspaper, The Dawn, is writing. And as I've been saying, I think the only media really to watch today is the Pakistan media, and also the foreign media in which there are Pakistani origin journalists reporting, because they understand the language and they understand the context within which the news is being reported. John Kerry was on MS Now last night, and he made it very clear. And remember, John Kerry was the secretary, was this foreign secretary for the U.S. when the JCPOA was being negotiated, which is considered to be one of the most masterful negotiations and agreements that the U.S. had signed under Obama with Iran and 6 or 7 other countries in the world as guarantors: Europe, China, Russia. John Kerry reminded us last night that Netanyahu had shown up in the White House to make a presentation to Obama. Sound familiar? Not in the Situation Room, but he has shown up in the Oval Office trying to convince President Obama to strike Iran. And Obama said no. And we know how much hate the Israelis generated against Obama, and the Congress of the United States pretty much went along with that, including Chuck Schumer. So John Kerry told us that Netanyahu had shown up in the White House under George W. Bush and was told no, shown up under Obama, was told no, shown up under Biden and was told no. And he succeeded where all the other presidents had said no. He succeeded with this president who made the foolish decision and said, sounds good to me, and then we are where we are today. Extraordinary. But we kind of knew this, right? I mean, those of us who have been tracking the news for years now knew that especially Bush Jr. had said absolutely no to Israeli attacks on Iran. And of course, Obama, who was negotiating the JCPOA. As I said yesterday, Starmer has been playing the most awful double game. UK bases have been used to attack Iran. The result is that 3,000 Iranians have been massacred, many of whom are civilians, including the 175 elementary school children. The UK has still not expressed any condemnation of that attack because it's quite likely that the UK was involved in allowing the US to use bases to make that attack. So what is Mr. Starmer doing? I believe he's still hanging out in the GCC, and he's saying that he's spoken to Mr. Trump and that he has talked about creating a 30-nation alliance to force open the Strait of Hormuz, including using the military and finding a military solution to opening the Strait of Hormuz. So basically, Mr. Starmer is cooking up some sort of deal that he is talking to Trump about using military force against Iran to force open the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that has been the call of the UAE. And so Mr. Starmer is proposing an expansion of the military campaign? And he's saying this while the peace talks or the ceasefire talks are just getting started and all the delegates are arriving in Islamabad. So this is what Mr. Starmer is telegraphing, that he is arranging a 30-nation alliance to also potentially use military force. The Iranians probably despise Mr. Starmer a little bit more than the Americans or the Israelis. The history of the UK against Iran has been despicable. And this is what Mr. Starmer is busy doing, the double game that he has been playing all along. So there is that. So while everything else is happening, Europe is also realigning itself. So now Spain, Ireland, and Slovenia and France have called for the EU to potentially make null and void a trade agreement with Israel based on what Israel continues to do in Lebanon. Apparently, there are going to be some sort of ceasefire talks on Tuesday between the Lebanese ambassador to the US, the Israelis, the so-and-so in Washington, led by the State Department. So very separate from what's happening with Iran. They continue to try to decouple Lebanon from Iran, which is going to prove to be a folly and probably fatal to the ceasefire, because Iran will not decouple, Iran will not agree unless Lebanon is folded into the ceasefire, which was the original agreement. But there you have it. There's a real effort to decouple the two. So while Europe is also realigning in many ways, and Spain is now, Pedro Sanchez has ordered his ambassador back to Iran to open the Spanish embassy in Iran. There's a very important election coming up on Sunday, April 12th, and that is the Hungarian election, where Viktor Orban is being, he is not doing well in the polls, and all the predictions are that he will lose the election to Magyar, who is the opponent, and that not only will he lose, but he will be trounced. And that is why J.D. Vance rushed off to Hungary in the midst of this war to try to bolster Mr. Orban. And apparently that kind of backfired and his numbers dropped even further, as is being reported. So Mr. Orban is the favorite of Trump and Vance and Rubio and Hegseth and Putin. So Mr. Orban has been playing the spoiler in the EU, refusing to help Ukraine and refusing to provide essential monies to Ukraine, and getting in the way of Ukraine's support for Ukraine in the EU. But more importantly, I think Mr. Orban has been the model that the Trump administration wants to use in its ambitions for total autocracy in the United States and the end of democracy, the end of free speech, the end of independent media, the end of an independent judiciary. And over again, the U.S. has, Trump administration and their CPAC buddies have lauded the Orban model as what America should be. So this is a very, very pivotal election that is happening. And again, the realignment of Europe may happen on April 12th. So that is something to watch. So on we go, watching what happens in Islamabad. Meanwhile, for those of you who may not know, explosive media aligned with Iran is taking social media by storm with what they're calling the Lego videos, and anti-Trump, anti-Israel Lego videos that are again taking social media by storm. Whether you like it or not, highly sophisticated videos are being produced and they're churning out one after the other, using rap and using rap lyrics. So there we have it. The meme war is on, and right now it seems that the Iran-aligned warriors, meme warriors, are absolutely occupying, dominating that space. So let us see what happens. Let me give you a quick check of what is happening in the markets. And again, I do this because it really indicates a sentiment of the markets and what is about to happen in the ceasefire talk. So the oil futures is at 98, which is where it has hovered, and it goes down to 95 as there's more optimism on the talks. And I just wanted to, something else occurred to me, that the Iranian leadership has within it PhDs in mathematics. So they probably know what level of oil futures causes enough pain. And I think they have figured out that oil futures hovering around $98 is where the pain point is. And that is where the oil futures have hovered, with just enough ambiguity on the Strait of Hormuz and the ceasefire talks and the fact that Lebanon remains a sore point. So like I said, they are PhDs in mathematics, and they probably know that 98 is the pain point, and they may be right given the inflation numbers that have come out this morning. So let us see where this all goes today. And like I said, it seems JD Vance has boarded the flight for Islamabad, and we don't know if the Iranians have done the same. We have no information, but that we'll watch what happens during the day.